Yesterday, Microsoft announced that the Kinect 2 for Xbox One would be available separately in stores beginning October 7th for the price of $149.99. Now that comes on the heels of them offering a Kinectless Xbox bundle for $100 less than the version that included it. So why not sell the Kinect for $100, and what does it mean that they didn't? If you're thinking about buying an Xbox One, how should this affect your decision making? We know that console makers try to keep the price as low as possible, even to the point of taking a loss if they have to, in order to convince as many people as possible to buy into their platform so they can make their money off of the games. Now, obviously, when Kinect was part of that basic package, it benefited from that pricing strategy. But a common perception was that the higher price of Xbox was a key factor in its sales lagging behind the PS4, and that the cost of including the Kinect was an obvious culprit in pushing the price as high as it was. Apparently, Microsoft came to the same conclusion because they started selling an Xbox One without Kinect in June. And the response from consumers was immediate and positive, with Xbox sales doubling immediately, although they were still behind the PS4. The message that's sent to Microsoft is clear. There are a large number of potential customers who don't value the Kinect enough to pay that extra $100 for it. And while there are definitely Xbox owners who love their Kinect, Microsoft needs to win over the millions of gamers who have yet to commit to a console. So they pulled Kinect out and were immediately rewarded when they saw that a large number of people were ready to take the plunge at that lower price point, which appears to confirm the idea that Kinect was at least partly to blame for holding them back. We'll need to see if the sales increase lasts over time to really know that, but the initial results were certainly promising. So, given all of that, they had to decide how to price Kinect. One question they'd have to answer early on is what is the lowest price they would even consider selling it for? Now, we can get a pretty good estimate of this ourselves if we look at two pieces of publicly available information. First, a teardown and analysis of Kinect by IHS estimated that the cost of materials and manufacturing came in at $75 each. And when Microsoft pulled it out of the Xbox One bundle, which we know they are probably keeping as close to their cost as possible, they cut the price by $100. So it's fair to estimate that they could have sold it somewhere in the vicinity of $100 and at least come close to breaking even. But this would have been a bad idea for at least two reasons. First, it eliminates any incentive at all to buy the Xbox One bundle with a Kinect. People could easily decide to just skip it and buy one later if they decided they needed to, because it only makes sense to at least try it the cheaper way and see if you like it. I mean, think about it. If your worst case scenario is that you just go back later and pay the exact same amount of money that you would have for the Kinect bundle, why would you do that unless you just knew for an absolute fact that you wanted it? And most people won't. But with a price of $150, now you're making people on the fence about Kinect actually think about which bundle they should buy. If they pass on it for now, it's going to cost them an extra $50 if they do want it later. Now, we have no way of knowing how many people out there are in this group, but at least some of them will be motivated to buy the more expensive package, and that can only be a plus for Microsoft. The second reason will take a little longer to explain, but stay with me. So now that people have an option to skip Kinect outright, the whole value proposition has changed. The only question you used to have to consider was whether an Xbox One plus Kinect were worth $500 to you. But now, when looking at Kinect as an accessory, the question becomes whether you're willing to spend at least $100 above and beyond the $400 you've already paid for Xbox One. And by definition, you weren't willing to do that when you bought the console, because if you were, you would have just bought the full package. So there are two possible scenarios here. The first is Microsoft just isn't able to convince a large number of the people who buy that cheaper Xbox One that Kinect is worth paying a lot of money for. And whether it's $100 or $150, most of us would have to want it pretty badly. So in this case, they might as well price it so that the small number they do sell at least earn some profit. They may sell fewer, but they won't keep sinking money into something that isn't successfully growing the Xbox One ecosystem. The second scenario is that something happens to change the perception of Kinect. Let's say that a Kinect game becomes a phenomenon on the order of Guitar Hero that would make people feel like they're seriously missing out if they don't have one. Whatever the specifics, though, if people feel like they need Kinect, then they'll pay $100 for it. And a fair percentage of the ones who would pay that much, they'll pay $150 if it comes down to it. But more than that, if demand for Kinect ever heats up to that extent, then their cost of making it will almost certainly come down. And a price drop would be a real possibility, both for the bundle and for the Kinect as an accessory. So if it fails to take off, the price keeps them from losing any more money on it. And if it succeeds, then they can always reevaluate the price later. All in all, it seems like a pretty savvy move by Microsoft. But what does this mean for you? Well, if you want an Xbox One, you should take a hard look at what the Kinect offers and whether it might be worth $100 to you to get that. Because if you don't buy it in the bundle, it will only cost more later. Now, that said, you should also keep in mind that Kinectless bundles are going to become an ever larger percentage of the total Xbox One installed base. And that will increasingly put pressure on Microsoft to make the system's UI work better with a controller rather than voice commands. So in that sense, over time, some of the basic convenience and functionality that Kinect gives you will almost certainly see some of its value erode, and not because it's getting worse, but because the free option will get better. Also remember, you theoretically lose about 10% of the processing power of the console if you use Kinect. But it also remains to be seen to what extent developers are going to optimize their games to take advantage of that boost for those who can use it, while also supporting those who can't. Now, if you aren't particularly interested in motion-controlled games or voice commands, well, then your choice will be a lot more simple. You can just buy the Kinectless bundle. You don't really have to worry about ever wanting the accessory, most likely. And really, it would just come down to whether you like the Xbox One and the games it offers more than you do the PS4. And you can have more of a true apples to apples comparison because there's no price gap anymore. All right, thank you for watching. And if you found this video helpful or interesting, please consider giving it a like, share, or favorite. And if you want to see more, then don't forget to subscribe. That's all for now. This is TapCat, and I'll see you next time.